If you have been watching my channel recently, you may know that I am in the middle of a bit of an office clear out. I posted a video recently where I went through my yarn collection. I decided what to keep and what to destash, and that is in the destash section of my website. I've also gone through a lot of my books, knitting books and some crochet books, and decided to get rid of some of them, and also loads of project bags and some fabric. I still have some fabric to go through that I given to my daughter, but she's decided she doesn't want it, so I need to decide whether I'm going to keep that or not. And then I have listed all the books I know I wanted to get rid of, but I have a lot of books left and I could really do with getting rid of a few more. So what I thought I'd do today is show you the books I'm keeping and why I'm keeping them, and try and make a decision about the few books I haven't decided on yet. So if you fancy checking out my destash, it is on my website. I will put the link below. I will also link my yarn stash tour and destash video. Now, I know a lot of people don't like using the word stash because it has connotations to drug use and things like that, but it is commonly used in the knitting world, and I agree that maybe we should get away from using some of these words. But when it comes to selling off some of my yarn collection, I just feel like it's the easiest word to use because people know what I'm talking about. So I have decided to keep using it, although I am aware that it is problematic. So if you find that offensive, I do apologize. If you are new here, my name is Anniken. I design knitting patterns, I teach knitting workshops online and in person, and I sell yarn through my website YarnAddict.co.uk. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. So I have a tall bookcase over the other side of the room, and I have two shelves that are completely full of books, and I had some few books in a different location as well, mostly a couple of really big sewing books which I've already given away to somebody in my knitting group, and also some books that I've contributed to over the years, which I might also show you if I have time. I don't want this video to be too long. But some books I'm really struggling to decide whether to keep or not. When I first started designing, I bought a lot of stitch dictionaries because they're really useful when you're designing knitwear, because they have lots of stitch patterns that you can use in your designs. And I had 4 by Barbara Walker. They all sold really quickly. One person bought all 4 of them. I was very reluctant about not to get rid of those, but I haven't looked at them for years. At one point, every time I wanted to start a new design and didn't want it just to be plain stocking stitch, I would sit and go flick through my stitch dictionaries and look at different stitch patterns and ideas and things. I don't do that as often anymore because a lot of these stitch patterns are in my head, and I'm better at like working out my own stitch patterns. And also my own designs, past designs, are kind of like my own personal stitch dictionary now. So I am getting rid of most of my stitch dictionary books. When I first got back into knitting, I would occasionally buy pattern collections, but then I realised I wasn't really knitting any of them, so I've stopped doing that a while ago, and I would mainly buy stitch dictionaries, design books and stuff which had interesting techniques that I wanted to learn. So that's mainly what I've been buying over recent years. So let's go through and see what I've still got on my shelf and see if I can get rid of a few more today. So the first ones are some machine knitting books. I was quite into machine knitting for a while. I do still have a knitting machine. It's in the corner over there next to the camera. I got it up in this room a couple of years ago, actually where the unit is that my camera is sitting on now. And I tried to get back into using it, but I had problems with my neck and back, and I was just getting in too much pain. And I decided, because it did take up quite a lot of space, I decided I could really do with that space for storage. One thing I found with machine knitting was that all the books seemed to be straight out of the 80s, and there was a machine knitting magazine in the UK. I can't remember what it was called, and that was also very, very dated and kind of like straight out of the 80s, I felt. So I didn't find that very inspiring, really. But I got some knitting machine book. This is a Knitmaster one. I'm not sure what it is really. Oh, it's a stitch dictionary book. Okay, I might get rid of that because I can't see myself getting back into machine knitting again. I'm just going to stack them all up on the floor next to me. Then we have a couple of more machine knitting books. I mean, see what I mean when I say throughout the 80s? Are these the same book? Just in a different colour scheme. Yeah, it's got the same on the back as well, so I'm assuming this is the same book. Just a different colour scheme. Yeah, very much straight out of the 80s. If you're a machine knitter, because I can't imagine that many people being into this. I need to actually have a look. I think it is the same book. I need to have a look properly inside and see if it's got the same stuff inside. But yeah, very much from the 80s. I think it probably is the same book, just with a slightly different colour scheme on the cover. I don't know why I bought both of them. But yeah, I'll probably get rid of those. Knitting Traditions. That is my design on the cover. This was published by Interweave Knits, and I will keep that for the time being, I think. Then I got Interweave Crochet. I probably had a pattern in here, but I will check that out before I decide whether to get rid of it. Oh yes, I did. That, not the hat, but the scarf is mine. I did decide a few crochet patterns many years ago. Debbie Bliss magazine. That's my design on the cover. I met Debbie Bliss at a local event in Devon, and within a few minutes of meeting, I was trying to work out on the whole way there how I could drop into conversation whether she commissioned other designers to design for her. And at the time, she had her own yarn company that was stocked all of the US and in the UK and other parts of the world, I guess, but it was huge in the US. And the distributor went out of business a few years ago, and then her yarn line was taken over by Love Crafts, so I don't think it's in yarn shops anymore. And she also had a magazine that was published by the same publisher who published Vogue Knitting. And I met her within, I don't know, 5-10 minutes of meeting her. She asked if I wanted to design a lace shawl for her, so I said yes, and I designed that one. Vogue Knitting, Noro. I'm not going to go through those. I probably have patterns in there, so I need to check those before I decided to keep them or not. Another Debbie Bliss pattern. This was one I did for her distributor. So this was one that was sent out to yarn shops, and it was basically a square baby blanket. I don't know if I published this. I might have published this because I got the rights back to this when her when the designer yarns, the distributor, went out of business. This is a booklet of Selbu patterns from Selbu mittens and hats and socks and things from Norway. It kind of has a stitch dictionary as well, so I do use this a lot as a stitch dictionary, so I'm definitely keeping that. This one I was sent to do a review on, and I don't think I ever did, and I've never read it. I don't know what it's about. Hand knitting empowers, heals, and reconnects us to one another and ourselves. One I might give to a local charity shop. If anyone wants this, let me know. It's easy peasy puppy squeezy. We got it when we got our dog. He wasn't a puppy when we got him, but we got this anyway because our dog trainer recommended it, and I looked at it, but I don't think I've ever used it at all. Then we have a designing nipper by Deborah Newton. This one is one I don't know whether to keep or not, so I may have to probably have a closer look at it and see whether there's still stuff I can learn from it. There probably is. I have a lot of pages which I've folded over, so I think I will keep that for now, just to, where am I putting stuff that I'm keeping here? Just to see if I want to keep it or not. Crochet Bible, I'm getting rid of that. Spinning book, very small one. It's mainly got some patterns in it and some techniques about drop spindling. I think it's mainly about drop spindling, and I don't like drop spindling, so I'm gonna list that. Sweater design. This was another one I wasn't sure about whether to keep or not, so I might go through, just look through it and see what it looks like. When I first got back into knitting, I believe this was the first knitting book I bought, Vogue Knitting. And it's like it's called the Ultimate Knitting Book. It's like a knitting reference book, and I did find it really useful. Then a few years ago, they came out with a new version, this one, Vogue Knitting, 25 years of articles, techniques, and expert advice. So I got that one, and I think it's patterns and techniques and essays and stuff from the magazine. So it's not exactly like the other one, but I haven't looked at either of them for years, so I think they can both go. Cornish Guernseys and Knit Frocks by Mary Wright. I'm keeping that. I've got a couple of Elizabeth Zimmerman books, and I'm not sure what to do about those, whether to keep them or not. Let me know if you've heard of Elizabeth Zimmerman. When I first got back into knitting, she was very popular, although she had died many years before, I think. She was still quite popular at the time, and quite innovative designs. So I think I'm going to keep that. I need to look at it properly first. Then I got this Knitting Off the Axis, Projects and Techniques for Sideways Knitting. Who's this by? It's by Matthew Nagy. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Don't think I've ever really done anything with this. I was going to keep it, but no, that can go. And then my mum got me this one. Anyone recognize those two guys? That is Anne and Carlos, their first book in Norwegian. My mum got it for me the Christmas it came out. If you watch their YouTube channel, you can see they've changed quite a lot. This was published in, this is the Norwegian version. I think it came out in the UK like the year after. And this is from 2010, I think. Don't know. So I was thinking about getting rid of that, but it is in Norwegian, so it's probably not going to be very in demand, so I will keep that, I think. This one I'm not sure about, Crochet Motifs. It's basically like granny squares or triangles and circles and hexagons and things. I think it's an American book. I think that can probably go. Crochet Finishing Techniques. Keeping that, even though I don't crochet that much, I'm getting into crochet again. Same thing with this one, Beyond the Block. That is filet crochet, and I loved that book when I first got it. It taught me a lot about filet crochet, so I'm keeping those. Knitting from the Top, that's another book I don't know whether I want to keep or not. It's basically about top-down knitting, and I learned a lot from it when I first got it. I could do with having a look at it again and see if there's anything more I can learn from that, so we're keeping that. Same with Sweater Design in Plain English by Maggie Riccati. It was a very popular book among designers when I started knitting, so I'm going to have another look through it and see what I can learn. This one taught me a lot. Knit by Design Workshop, Comprehensive Guide to Hand Knitting. Most important thing I learned from this book is by Shirley Payton. She also did an online course for Craftsy, I think, and I bought that as well. And the most important thing I learned from her is, you know, when a pattern says increase or decrease evenly on the next row, and you try and work it out, and I never used to be able to get that right, and she has a formula for how you do that. And that was the most useful thing I learned from this book. And it also has some patterns in it. Don't think I'm going to keep it, but I might have another quick look at it just to make sure I know whether I want to keep it or not. But that's a really, really good book. Okay, so I did something really clever. I went and got some more books, and then I sat down and I started talking, and then I realized I hadn't pressed play. And then suddenly my camera shut down, and I was like, what? Then I thought, I haven't actually pressed play, so let me go through the books I've just gone through to myself. Knitting and Crochet Answer Book. I found these really useful. I recommended that to a knitting friend as well. I'm going to keep those, I think, for now. Cast Off and Bind Off. Probably have a lot I could learn from that, because I tend to use the same cast offs and bind offs all the time. These are some books I've contributed to. Sock Knitting Bible by Lynn Rowe. I contributed a pattern to this. This came out, was it last year, I think? I think I did a video on that, so I'm going to link that below if I remember. If not, just look on my channel. 2 issues of Yarn by Sheepies or Sheepies. Issue 15 and 13, I had patterns in both of those, I think. I've had, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Pattern by Attic 24. I don't know whether I downloaded this from her website or whether I bought it. I bought a kit from one of her patterns from Wool Warehouse or something. I can't remember. And it came with a pattern, so that might be what it came with. I might see if my daughter wants this, because she's really into crochet, and I am not going to make that. And I actually gave the yarn to my daughter as well. So remember I was saying about Elizabeth Zimmerman. I have a couple of other Elizabeth Zimmerman books, Knitting Around. These were such classics and so sought after when I got back into knitting. Knitting Without Tears. So I'm going to keep those. And then this book is like a ton. The Principles of Knitting by June Hemmans Hyatt. The Comprehensive and Timeless Guide, Modern Methods, Techniques of Hand Knitting. It was a book that she'd written quite a long time before, I think, and she'd redone it, and it was republished a number of years ago. And when it was published, it was very, everyone were talking about it. And I got it, and then when I got it, I thought, that's massive. That's just so user-friendly because it's so massive. And it's got like loads. I've heard criticism that it's not very user-friendly. Anyway, I also bought the ebook version, which is also not very user-friendly, I don't think, really. I don't really like reference books on my Kindle or my phone or my tablet. So I bought it on Kindle, so it's like a Kindle book, so I can use it on my tablet, my Kindle, or my phone. But because this is so big, this must weigh several kilos, I think. I think I'm going to keep this. If you really want this, let me know, and I will weigh it and see how much it's going to cost to ship it. I would probably charge about £10 for it. It retailed at $45 US when I bought it. I don't know how much I paid for it, but I would charge about £10 for it plus shipping. So if you really want this, let me know and I will work out the shipping and let you know. So I got some brioche books, which I'm going to keep for now because brioche is still, I don't want to say it's a new technique to me because I've been doing it for a few years now and I do teach brioche. So I do know what I'm doing, but it's new-ish compared to lace knitting and colourwork and stuff like that. So I'm going to keep these brioche books just in case I need them. Knitting lace. This one I used a lot. It's got like stitch patterns and shaping and loads of stuff. I've got loads of pages folded over. I might actually get rid of that because I don't think I really need it anymore. This one I actually have two of. This is Orenburg shawls to knit. It's got several Orenburg shawl patterns plus like a stitch dictionary section. Orenburg is in Russia. They're kind of a bit similar to like Shetland shawls, I think, but I used to teach a workshop on it. I haven't taught for a few years, but I had one book. I lost it. I wanted it for the workshop, so I ordered another one. So one of these lives in my folder where I keep my workshop notes for that class and one in my bookcase so I don't lose it again. This stitch dictionary I feel like I could get rid of, but it's kind of barely hanging together, so I might as well keep that. Norwegian mittens and gloves. I was going to keep this. It's not a Norwegian book. I think it's by Anniken. Try and say it again. It is by Anniken Sumba, so it is a Norwegian book, but it's in English. It's got a lot of stitch patterns and stuff for Norwegian mittens. I think I'll keep that. This is one that my mum got me in Norwegian. Eventyrvotter, fairy tale mittens, another mitten book. I'm going to keep that. And then I got the Lithuanian knitting by Donna Drukunis and June Hall. I don't know if I've ever knitted anything out of this one. I think it's got like history stuff and quite interesting, I think, but I think that might go. And I got a book by Nancy Martins on tuck stitches, which I am keeping because I find tuck stitches really interesting. I used to use a lot of tuck stitches on my knitting machine. I have some more lace books. This one I'm not getting rid of. This was a book I got when I first got back into knitting. I got this one and another one for my birthday one year. This one's brand new. It's called Victorian Lace Today by Jane Sowerby, and Jane has signed it for me. She signed it in October 2008, which was a few years after I got it. This is the book that I blame for getting me into lace knitting. I'd never done lace knitting. I tried a couple of patterns from Vogue Knitting or something, I think, and really struggled with it. And I got this book and another one, which I can't remember what it was. I don't think I've got it anymore. And I knitted two patterns from this book, and that was what got me hooked on lace knitting and also taught me lace knitting. One of them was one I knitted for myself, one was for my mum. Maybe I did three. I also did one for my sister, but I can't remember if that was from here or not. I used to quite often use it as like a stitch dictionary, but I'm keeping that because it's really special to me, so that's staying. And then we got Creating Original Hand Knitted Lace by Margaret Stove. I think I had another book by Margaret Stove that I'm selling. This is quite old. I think if I remember correctly that she designed and knitted a shawl for Prince William's christening, or when he was born or something. I can't remember. I think that was her. I think she's from New Zealand. I'm selling that because I'm probably not going to look at it again. I used to use it a lot. Knitted lace of Estonia. So a lot of nups and things, so I might keep that. Arctic Lace, again by Donna Dracunas, who I used to be quite friendly with on social media. I don't know if she does much knitwear design anymore. I think she's into writing and things more, maybe. I'm not sure. But for my first book, I needed someone who could write like a little blurb on the back, you know, praising the book basically. And they wanted somebody who was like well known in the States, and I thought, well, I don't know anyone who's well known in the States that I could ask. And because I was quite friendly with Donna on various social media, I asked her and she did it. This is Arctic Lace, knitting projects and stories inspired by Alaska's native knitters. It's a really interesting book, and I've read it and I've knitted a lot from it. Well, I haven't knitted a lot from it. I've looked at the pattern. I've used some of the stitch patterns from it, but I can't see myself using it again, so that might go in my D-stash actually. Okay, nearly there. Legacy of Shetland Lace, Shetland Guild with Spinners, Knitters, Weavers and Dyers. I think I'm going to keep that for now just as a reference book. Then I got this stitch dictionary. It's a Japanese one. I've sold one Japanese stitch dictionary. It's in Japanese, but it has charts, and most of the charts I can work out, but not all of them. But all the text, there isn't a lot of text, but the text is in Japanese. Okay, the final stack of book I brought over are books that I've been published in, plus a few magazines. Oh, that was Vogue Knitting, my design on the cover. I think that was like the gift edition, maybe, I don't know. Beaded shawl on the cover of Vogue Knitting. I was very proud when that came out. A couple of other magazines that I need to look at. Right, these are stuff that I've been published in. I think most of these have been published by the same publisher that published Vogue Knitting, or publishes Vogue Knitting, I think. Can't remember what they're called. Sixth and Spring. Yeah, Sixth and Spring books. That one, I had some patterns in. I took one idea, like a stitch pattern or something, and then you did 3 different designs. So I had like a creamy yarn. I did a cowl, a shawl, and a scarf. That's the cowl. That's the shawl. I think they all use the same or a similar stitch pattern. Yeah, it's all the same stitch pattern, and then that's like a scarf wrap type thing. So that was quite good fun to do. That's a long time ago. Then I had a pattern in a Nora book, Nora Silk Garden, same publisher, Sixth and Spring books. Oh, it's this one here, so I'm not going to look for it inside the book. It's that one. I think that's mine. As soon as I bring back memories. That's also a long time ago. West Yorkshire Spinners. I did 4 sweaters for them. It's the first designs I did for them. I did 4 garments. I did that sweater. This was using their bird prints. I did a poncho. Problem with this yarn is that it's very difficult to show stitch patterns because it's quite a busy yarn. That sweater and that sweater. So 4 sweaters, but I went for stitch patterns for all of them, and it's quite difficult to. 5 sweaters, 6. Oh no, I did quite a few. So that's quite a few years ago, but I enjoyed doing that. That was good fun. Malabrigo, that was also published by Sixth and Spring Books, I think, or the same publisher that does Vogue Knitting. They do magazines and books and stuff for loads of different yarn companies in the US. I did this shawl, which I also taught a workshop on at Spinny Yarn. The owner at the time got special permission from Malabrigo for me to use the pattern in my workshop, because I don't own the publishing rights to those patterns. Modern this is the third time I'm trying to say this. Modern Country Knits. Why can't I say modern? 30 designs from Juniper Moon Farm. I contributed a pattern to this. Love Juniper Moon yarns. I've not seen them in the UK for a long time. Can I find? Oh, there we go. I recognise this pretty quickly. The Brandywine Stole, like a lacy shawl. That's a long time ago. 60 Quick Cows. That's the same publisher as the other books. I haven't submitted anything to this publisher for a long time. I don't think they do as many books and magazines anymore, but I haven't submitted anything for a long time because the last thing I did for them was at the start of COVID, and deadline was around the time when COVID sort of really got going in North America and in the UK and in Europe. And I had a deadline, and I realized that things were not going well in New York where this company was based. So I managed to finish it slightly quickly, got it shipped off with like FedEx. And I think the day it arrived in New York was when New York went into lockdown and FedEx couldn't deliver it. So I spent like weeks trying to get hold of my contact there because they were all sent home, I guess, and it took them a while because they could access their emails and things. Anyway, we did eventually get it delivered and it did eventually get published, but I think that scarred me a bit, and I don't think I've done any work for them since. But I don't think they do as many books as they used to, but that's the book I designed. That's knitted in Cascade Eco Highland Duo, which I think is like a DK yarn, or maybe Aran weight, I'm not sure. DK, I think. And the last book, 60 Quick Luxury Knits. So we have 60 Quick Cows, 60 Quick Luxury Knits, and that's my design on the cover. That shawl there. So let me see if I can find it and show it. Oh yeah, there it is. So beautiful shawl knitted in Cascade Yarns Venezia Sport, which is merino and mulberry silk. That is what that looks like. So that is all the books I'm keeping and some of the books I'm listing. So there are already quite a lot of books on my website still available at the time I'm filming this, and the ones I've decided to list and the ones I'm not sure about I will get listed. I will try and get them listed before this video comes out. I'm filming this on 26th of July. It won't be out next week, but probably the week after. First week in August, I guess that is. So there will probably still be lots of stuff left on my website. So I will link it below. I will also link my yarn stash tour and de-stash video below. If you have any questions, and if you want that, what's it called, Principles of Knitting, that massive book, let me know, and I'll see how much it will cost to ship it. I just think it's going to be, well, I guess if I shipped it, if it was in the UK and I shipped it second class, it'd probably be about up towards £10, I would guess, but I'm not sure. But let me know if you're interested in that and we can sort something else. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little whistle stop, slightly disorganized video. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.